Good morning, good morning. So glad to be here on another Thursday at 11 a.m. We are getting into another stronger and better segment, and we have some special guests that's going to be back with us, and I'm so glad to have them here. My power couple, Pastor Davis and Ebony Davis, and I'm so glad. I'm excited. So as we wait and as people are coming in, please say hello to me. Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're doing good. We are at the beginning of the year, and it's an exciting time for us to kind of reset things, to kind of put things into order in terms of our lives, in terms of relationships, finances, our business ventures, or whatever we have going on. So it's exciting to be able to do something like this, even have stronger and better, and to have guests like we're having today. Hello, Miss Tammy. What's going on? How are you? Glad to have you part of the show on today. We have others coming in. I see them logging in. Please say hello to me. Let me know that you're here. So glad to have each one of you here today. They're coming in now. We're here every week. Just to remind you, we're here every week at 11 a.m. And please make sure that each week, or you go onto our YouTube channel. You'll see it, the link at the bottom of the screen. Go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and make sure you're following us. We're on episode 31 on today. So there's plenty of content, plenty of information that will help you become stronger and better. Today is such a beautiful day to be able to come on and know that we're living, we have life, and we have being. We got people saying good morning. Good morning, Miss Smith. How are you? Glad to have you here on today. Good morning. Who is this? Miss Graham, Karen Graham. Glad to have you here on today. We got Mr. Graham on here today. Glad to have you here today. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you guys coming in. And I don't want to take too long. Let me just bring my guests on because I'm just excited to have them here. What's going on? What's going on?
Hello.
How y'all doing today?
Good. Happy New Year.
We're good.
Happy New Year. So we're here for part 2, and I'm glad that y'all decided to give us a part 2 on terms of being a power couple and relationships and how to get through the ups and downs and all that kind of good stuff. And you know, our listening audience was so blessed by the last time that you guys were on here. I got a lot of feedback that I had to bring y'all back, so that's a good thing. So I want to go ahead. Let's get the conversation started in terms of relationships. I think when we pretty much last were together, we started talking about how you had become sick and how it was interesting relationship in terms of how it could bring strain to the relationship. So I kind of want to talk about that in terms of, and we can start with Ebony. You know, it's tough when you find somebody you love that is sick. And how did you come to the conclusion that, you know, I'm going to stick this out with this man and I'm going to love him regardless of what he's bringing to the table? Because we all bring something to the table, but
Right.
he was bringing more than something. He was bringing an illness to the table. So let's talk about that. What were your feelings like during that time, and what made you stick with it?
Well, what made me stick with it is, as we mentioned when we were on last time, is that I knew that God had put us together. So because I knew that God had put us together, that is what, is basically the glue that's holding us together. So with that being said, anything else in the marriage that comes along with it, that's what I always hold to. That God put us together in any situations or problems that we have. I go back to the foundation, and the foundation is that God put it together. So I see him in that, and I think that is a very strong part. That's a key to our relationship, because we know that God put us together, and knowing that, there's nothing that I feel that can come our way that we won't be able to handle or we won't be able to conquer, because we know that God is in it. So that's one thing. But I think you can never really fully prepare yourself for having a spouse that has a medical issue. I think that when Gil and I were courting, I feel that the Holy Spirit was trying to let me know some of the little things that I needed to do, or let me know that some things that I would experience. But being someone that, I'm a female, I just want to be married. I think that I didn't really pay attention to those things, even when we were in counseling. That was brought up in counseling, and I didn't really understand why it was brought up. But now that I look back, I know that it was brought up because the Holy Spirit was trying to prepare me for what was going to come. And with that being said, it was very challenging, but I was able to go through the challenge because I know that God had put us together, and that he was the one that I would go to when I needed strength or I needed help with a situation in regards to any medical situation or any other situation that we have in the marriage.
Well, let me ask you this, because God does give us answers. Mm-hmm. And like he gave you the answer that Gil was going to be your husband. And I'm not going to say a lot of people, some people run from even what God says. And and especially when there's conflict or there's some kind of issue that comes along with it. And I guess my question is, what made you stay strong? Because a lot of people think also, and I want to bring this up, a lot of people think that if God says it, it almost has to be a perfect situation.
Right.
You guys' situation wasn't the perfect situation in terms of his health, in terms of what was coming along, with this process of falling in love and getting married. So, what kind of mindset were you in, and what made you stick in there? Other than knowing, God told me, but God, really, I got to deal with this too?
Right. Well, we also had people in our lives that were very instrumental to us and that will give counsel. And I think that's very important, that once God's put someone in your life that you can go to and you can consult with, somebody that you can confide in and know that this person is going to guide you in the right way and not going to take your business and carry it out in the street. Yeah. And when Gil and I got together, we had already stated there were certain people that we looked up to that were role models for us. And we wanted to utilize them so that if we ever got into a situation. So we talked about that first and said, okay, if we ever have a situation and need to talk about things, who would it be that we would be able to go to and that we can agree on? You don't mind me telling this person things about you. I don't mind you telling them something about me, somebody that we trust. So we started that off in the beginning. So as we were going through this process, when anything came up, and I felt like, I'm praying about this and I'm not seeing, or feeling a breakthrough in it. We have other people that we will go to that we can seek counsel from that will guide us. And that was also a help to me because we are already agreed to that. And we had picked the people that we wanted to guide us in that way. Of course, people that have successful marriages, it would make no sense to have somebody guide you and they don't even have a successful relationship. So that's what we did. And that's what helped me to get through. That's what helped me to stick in there. I found other people too that had similar situations as I, may not necessarily the same exact, but they could relate. And when you can find people like that, then they were able to counsel and help me get through it and stick in there.
Well, Gail, what were your feelings during this time? And, because you're coming to the table with bringing the issue to the table. Where were you kind of at? Because I know some people don't want to bring their issues or put their problems on others. Yeah. So kind of where were you at?
don't leave me. No. Just don't leave me. Stick with me. No, I think what happens as a man coming in, you want to support your family, you want to be that rock, and you have this disability. Yeah. And so what I had to do as a man is surrender totally to God. And 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 surrender tot totally to God because he had a plan behind it. And so what ended up happening was coming into the marriage, I was sick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it caused certain little minor conflicts. Well, he can't do this, he can't do that. I was
Yeah.
still working and doing things, but I was limited and some of the things I could do. So being transparent with Ebony and being transparent with God. And you got to show me what to do, what to say, because as a man, you get frustrated. And so, what the
Yeah.
Lord had to let me know is, yeah, for right now, you are broken,
Yeah.
but I'm not broken.
Yeah.
And as God, I'm going to show you how to trust and lean on me. And that's really what all this was. This was a development for our marriage to teach us how to trust totally and lean on God. Because, when you got money in the bank, everybody feeling good, everything's happy, you don't pray as much.
Yeah.
You don't lean on the Lord as much. When we came in our situation, things were kind of a little tattered, a little torn. And God said, now I want you to totally lean on me. It's one thing to say, Lord, I trust you in everything, but do you really? And so he provided for us. I never went without working. I never, I had days where I just felt really bad and sick. And, sometimes she just had to sit there and, you rub my head and just,
Yeah.
you're going to make it. And I know sometimes she just went in the bathroom and cried and just be like, Lord, give me the strength. The sick is stay,
Yeah.
But, it built us as a young couple. And like she said, God put somebody in, actually, it's the individual that married us, the pastor that married us, he had leukemia and he went through a bout with him and his wife. So when we sat down with them, it was nowhere and nothing we could say to them. They hadn't already been there.
Yeah.
So it was easy for the wife to say, listen, when he's like this, you do that, and you talk to them, you call me and, that kind of thing. Yeah. So God had set it up. He never leaves you alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
He never leaves you out there stranded. It's just you got to use what God gives you to help you go through. And I think the biggest thing for us was when God put those individuals in our life, use what I'm giving you. Use what I'm giving you. And and another thing people may not understand, church. Come to church. Getting your praise on and your worship on when you going through hell and high water, it helps. I don't care what nobody say.
Yeah.
In the church and
get
into a space where you can worship, fall out before the Lord and have him strengthen you. It was key for us. It was key for us.
Well, let me ask you this. So in terms of you knew what was going on, and Ebony didn't know what was going on initially. And we have a lot of single people that watch this show in terms of trying to date and trying to court. When is the right time to kind of expose what's going on with you, or to really become vulnerable to somebody that you're dating or want to decide to court?
I would say once in your mind you have reached a point where this person, we want to go past dating.
Yeah.
We want to move past this just casual infatuation with each other. And I want to take it a little deeper, whether that's 6 months, whether that's a year, whether that's 2 years, that's kind of dependent upon the person and where the relationship is headed. But once you get to that point where, I'm considering this person as, to be a spouse, or I'm looking for, to be serious with this individual, then that's the time to start bringing up some things, bringing them around your people, bringing them around your family, and you going around their family, and, being transparent, and do it little by little. Don't hit them with everything all at once. But, like if I know I was going through
my question too. When you finish your question, is too much information, is there too much that you can expose?
Yeah. Don't tell them everything that's wrong with you. That's some stuff be for marriage. Don't tell them everything that's wrong with you. Don't ever do that. Ever. Let them find out, because if you start telling them everything that's wrong with you, you know, right. I didn't know you couldn't see out of both your eyes. You know, just I got a limp. Let them see that. Don't tell them everything. You know, you gotta ease them into it, because some people gotta figure it out, and they'll ask. Yeah. They'll ask. If you close enough with a person, and to me, it's how observant that person is. Yeah. I bring you around, and notice. Wow, you said you got 12 brothers and sisters, but I don't know none of them. You ain't never brought me around. Yeah. What's your family dynamic like? Yeah. You asking that lets me know you paying attention. Yes. All right, then let me share some things with you about, a couple of things going on with my family, but
let's pause there. Like, in terms of family dynamics, how did that play into, your marriage, and how, how important is that?
My people's all right. Her people like me. I can put that out there right there. She can go ahead and get deep, but I just don't like me,
Well, I'm not going to necessarily say that. But I think one of the things that I want to go back to really quickly is paying attention. Yeah. A lot of times we don't pay attention in relationships, and there's a lot of things, you so in love, and you just, you want a man and he want a woman, and a lot of times, because it's that kind of thinking, you don't pay attention. And it's very important to pay attention, because there's people that we talk to now and we say, well, I saw A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we wondering why they didn't see it, and they didn't see it because, they're so in love. But if you pay attention, then you'll know, some of the signs that let you know, well, this may not be the person for me. And then you save yourself from heartache and sorrow later on. Now, in regards to family is very, very important. It's very important for, you to know about each other's families, the dynamics, because when we come together, we're bringing both of our histories together. Yeah. So with that being said, Gil and I grew up together, so our families knew each other. Now, there may not have been necessarily that everybody was so in love and liked each other, but there were people. It wasn't. There were people in my family that told me that Gil was going to be my husband, and it was like a joke in the family. It was just a joke, and we would laugh about it, not knowing that they were speaking something prophetic. So, with that being said, although family is important, God is also important in what He says. And although there were people in my family that did not want me to be with Gil, it didn't matter because of what God said. And I'm just going to quote something that my father said to me. I went to my dad and I was letting him know that the Lord spoke to me and said that Gil was going to be my husband, and that I know that the families did not necessarily like each other. And I was concerned about that. And I wanted to find out, from my dad, how he felt personally, in my household about the man that I said that I was, was going to be married to, how he felt. And he said to me, he said, after you tell me that God said, it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter what I say, because that supersedes everything. But with that being said, there's still some things that come with that, because now I'm following what God said, but I have family members that I love that may not or necessarily don't want me to be with him, and have been very verbal about it. And, but I think that what we held on to is that when God says something, it supersedes everything, and let's see what we can do to kind of compromise and bring things together. Now, one of the major concerns, because I'm a female and I'm marrying a man that is sick. Yeah. And like Gil was on dialysis, we knew his circumstance before I married him. So one of the concerns was that I just don't want you to be with someone that may not be able to provide and to take care of you. Yeah. or may die.
In 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. So that was, some of the concern of us was more so in that respect of it. And then I also, was liking someone else prior to him. And that played a role, in it as well. But at the end of the day, God said he was my spouse, and we rolled with that.
So Gil, wait a minute. So now some of these people don't like you, right? So how did you?
Yes. We had meetings. We had meetings.
I'm not a confrontational person by nature, but I'm direct. And so the Bible says if you want to make a friend, you got to show yourself friendly. Right. And so I understood it was important to her. She didn't have really a lot of issues from my side coming to, her way. So what I did was I would just, we together and a family said, I'm like, why you don't like me? Tell me, I just come out right, because it could be something crazy. It could be something silly. I mean, you have to work on it. It's something that can be changed. Let's communicate about it. Mind you, in my mind, I marry her whether you like it or not. But if I can make this transition peaceful, the scripture says, follow peace with all men. Holiness without, no man shall see the Lord. So I'm going to try to pursue peace. Yeah. So if I can pursue it and make it work, then I'm going to do that. And so to me, that wasn't an issue because, for me, I wanted the woman. I wanted the woman. What do I have to do to get her? What do I have to do to make it so it's not a Romeo Juliet, with the Montagues and the Capulet? Right. We don't need that. Yeah. So if we can facilitate that and make that easier, to me, Pastor Leroy, when you got families that already know each other, and you can sit down, you go to church, you worship together, to be having all the infight and the argument, all you got to do is sit down and communicate. To me, that's a stupid problem to have. Just sit down and ask people, well, what's wrong? What don't you like? I couldn't have the attitude. I don't care what they think. You my boo. You don't do this, and I can't. And we lived when we first got married. We didn't live in Bloomfield. Okay. At the time, let's buy a house. She like, I want to go back to where my people are, the Bloomfield. So I'm surrounded by him, Right. It was like, if I didn't make that effort earlier on, this is going to be an uncomfortable situation. And I'm like, why make it uncomfortable? You don't have to bring a sword to this fight. I meant you getting a good thing. You know what I'm saying? I know that's right. To the table. You getting a good thing. I'm getting a good thing. Let's work it out, and talk about it. And some stuff I had some family members came up to me, and I don't know why I didn't like you. Wow. I don't know why. I said, well, praise Jesus. Wow. So how about now? So I don't. They got over and said, I didn't really know why. And certain little things people will say or whatever, and sometimes people don't like you because of maybe what they don't know about you. And if you make yourself available to talk to them, they come back and go, all right, I thought he was stuck up. I thought he was Husser Diddy. I thought he was whatever. Right. And he's a cool guy. I said, yeah, but I was just concerned about her mother and father. All the external people, you can handle what you can handle. If they still don't, you got to move on. Yeah, can't chase nobody down. Please be my friend. Please, I got to work on my marriage. You'll come around sooner or later, and we'd have gatherings. Invite them to the house. I ain't got nothing against you. You know what I mean? If you don't have a problem, come on, let's sit down and talk. But to me, it was too small of a circle not to work it out. We're gonna see each other a gazillion times a week. Yeah. Why not work it out?
Right. And that makes sense. So even through the conflict, you talk about, if I go back a little bit, you talked about surrounding yourself with mentors. Yes. Yeah. And those who were married and stable. do you recommend that now for people to do? And also, do you still have those same mentors for issues that you may go through now?
Yes, we do have the same mentors that we had before, and it's very important to find those people that you can attach yourself to for counsel. Definitely, definitely.
And you're going to use them throughout your marriage, not just through the difficult times.
Yeah.
Me and my wife always go, just like you bring a car to get a tune-up, your marriage needs a tune-up.
Yeah.
So you got to sit down with them, even after 7 years, 10 years of marriage. You sit down with those people and, you know, get a tune-up. Go out to dinner with them. How's this going? How's that going? You know, we started out, we had adopted daughter, Nikki, and then the Lord added more children. So it was, you know, every little phase you went through, you had to kind of, okay, how are you dealing with that? Well, I'm finding this hard. I'm finding that difficult. You know, it was time I was working 2 and 3 jobs and, you know, you ain't home and this and that. So it's like, you know, that brings on just a new criteria of things that you have to discuss, and you need to talk to somebody about it, because if you try to figure out on your own and it ain't quite working, you can't keep pushing in that direction. You need to talk to somebody that's figured it out and can walk you through it. And sometimes talking to somebody and getting that out, just verbalizing it.
That
help.
That's true.
You know?
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about family dynamics. You know, with family dynamics, so, you know, you guys got married, you know, like you just said, you had an adopted daughter, you know, you had 2 jobs. You weren't pastoring yet, but you were very involved in the church. But, you know, let's talk about balance and family dynamics. How did that play a role on your marriage?
In the beginning, it wasn't that bad because we had our adoptive daughter, Nikki, and then there was a space in between there because like we had shared, we were told that we couldn't have any children. So I think that at some point we just felt like maybe God allowed us to adopt because we weren't going to have any children.
Right.
So we kind of, you know, just went with that. And then when Darius came along, it wasn't that bad because of the space that we had, and we worked different shifts. So what happened was Gil would do the morning shift and I would do the night shift, and that's kind of how it flowed. And then years
y'all
later,
weren't seeing each other, were you?
Huh?
Were y'all seeing each other?
We were married then.
Well, I mean, y'all were seeing each other.
No, we were ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
You coming in, I'm leaving. Yeah.
So it was a little rough, but you know, we did see, you know, we got to see each other, and we just were doing what needed to be done for our circumstance, our situation.
Now Gil laughing. I want to know what his version is.
Because it was rough. It was rough because we were ships passing in the night, and it was tough to work on our marriage and focus on it, because if I wasn't working, I was getting treatment. If I wasn't getting treatment, I was at the church. So we were, and we knew things were kind of going left, because you know, you start arguing about crazy stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, right? You put the toast in the toaster, and only one part of the bread got toasted, and you arguing for a half hour about that. So then you knew there's something going on here, and we were neglecting each other because she had the baby. When Darius came, I had got a transplant, so it was overwhelming. So you're going from, I'm nursing his baby, I'm nursing this grown man, taking care of him. Everything was kind of boom, and you kind of forget you're married. You go right into kind of survival mode. We're trying to make things work. And then when you start the little arguing and little this and that, you got to take a minute. Lord, what's going on? Yeah. We were neglecting each other. So we had to get back to that kind of interaction with each other, what made us, you know, kind of fall in love to begin with. So we had to start dating again. Start, you know, mama, what you doing? You know, I'm watching the kids, and we're gonna go to a movie, and we're gonna go somewhere in the park and just stare at each other and figure out, what's going on. And that it was simple things like that. We learned after that we can't go too long. Separated from each other, letting life get in the way. We had to sit down and say, listen, our marriage is a priority. So whatever we got to move or adjust, that's what we had to do. To the point where I had to let go a job because I wanted to be home and be present for my wife because I was feeling better.
Yeah.
I feel good. I want to work 9 jobs, let's go, and I had to step back and go, well, you have this wife, and we never really had that honeymoon phase.
Right.
Because we went right into issues. So once God calmed a lot of that down for us, we had to do our honeymoon almost, 4 or 5 years into our marriage.
Right.
And that's when, we started that, and boom, we come Darius, and then Josiah, and then Destiny, and Trinity. So that's what it took. Yeah. You got to notice, like my wife said, you got to pay attention. You always got to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and y'all went from 0 kids to 5 kids.
Boom.
And what's crazy is, you weren't supposed to have kids.
Right.
And so I think, in terms of the way you handled it, what you're talking about now is kind of amazing. But can you just talk about how just going from 0 to 5, like that's, I got 3 and I know how that goes. Yeah, 5.
I wish he could have carried a few of them for me. because even now he still wants more. He said just 2. Just 2 more.
She's so selfish.
He can have 2 more if he can carry them and deliver them. So for us, the first time of pregnancy was a little difficult because I lost my first child. After losing the first one, when I got pregnant again, I was pregnant with Darius. So I was a little nervous about that because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they did say we couldn't have children. Right. The first one that, came through the womb did die. And now I'm pregnant with another one. So, it was a lot of prayer and holding on. And then once we saw that, it was about everything was coming to fruition and we had him, it was great, But then you got to understand, after Darius, the next child didn't come to 7 years later.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we were happy with the one, that came naturally. So he said she was happy. So he probably was praying. He was praying for more than that, obviously. And his prayers always seem to win for some reason. But then after that, they were coming. So then, after they started coming, then I was kind of making my request saying, well, can this one be a girl this time? And, trying to, but it was a boy. It was Josiah. So then I'm saying, okay, well, maybe the next one will be a girl. And then, you're thinking you're done. And then, another one. But I think that through us, God was using us as a living testimony to be able to tell other people that when the doctors tell you that you cannot have a child, that they don't have the final say.
Yeah.
And so it was for us to be able to share with those that are being told that, they can't have children or having issues, that we could be a testimony to them and say that we were told the same thing, but look what God did. So.
And in the home, scheduling. literally scheduling. We wake up in the morning and we had a game plan. So even to this day, we run ours like a Ford assembly line. You iron clothes. I'm washing bodies, getting them dressed. Like, it was scheduling and just, planning our day 2 and 3 days, ahead of time. Because it came boom, boom, boom. Because Destiny and Josiah, they're barely a year apart. They're like our Irish twins. So when
now listen, I did wait my 6 weeks for all of y'all listening out there.
we went to the doctor. She sat at the table. They did an exam. Like, You pregnant again? She started crying. And I was like, yes, sir. The doctor looked at me and said, leave her alone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it was, it happened quickly. So we just developed a routine. My wife is a very organized type A personality.
And he's the opposite.
I'm very laid back, it'll happen. They eat, if they didn't eat today, they're going to eat tomorrow. They'll be all right. My wife was like, no, they got to do this. And, so she lined everything up and I just fell in line and just, set things up and organized it. And, it was just working it out, knowing what things, when it got chaotic, she put it in my hands. Your father's laid back. She doesn't do well with chaos because, she likes to be organized. So when things begin to unravel, I'm going to give it to your father because he's got the patience for it.
So let me ask you, how did you guys discover each other? Like in terms of personalities, who handles this versus, who handles this? And then on the back end of that question, because it seemed like Ebony doesn't want kids. And Gil was like, yeah, well, give me more. So how do you balance even those? Because in some marriages or relationships, that can be a huge conflict.
Absolutely. Talking about it, working toward each other's strength. So her strength is organization. So she knows in her mind, I can handle 2 kids.
Right.
I can do 3. You talking more.
Right.
So, at one point, she, had to sit down and say, listen, I need a lot of your help. So you're going to have to let go one of these jobs.
Yeah.
You're going to have to come over here. And that's just what I had to do. So you looking at money, what we're going to do with money? Well, this is how we're going to have to handle the money portion because I'm making this extra money. I'm trying to throw it in the kitty, but you away. And I'm left with all these babies and I don't do well with all of them needing something at the same time. So, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. I had to let go of one of these jobs and I had to do some things when it came to our church life. I had to put it on, pause till we got through some of these patches and we had kind of a game plan in place. And we just worked on each other's strengths.
Yeah.
But initially, talking about it, just, I want more children. Really? Yeah. And then her outlet is other people. So I was always getting, no, I ain't doing that for you. You're selfish. You ain't gonna break my body down. I want to live, and I got that. So then she would go and talk to other people. And shout out to Dr. Roberts, God bless you.
And Mother Bailey.
And Mother Bailey, she go talk to other people. And they're like, oh, get a man another baby. But she had to kind of get that out of, off her chest, so to speak.
Yeah.
She's like, he want more, and this guy's crazy. But she's a communicator. She's got to get things up, and when she does that, she feels better. But we have.
Let me ask you, what could you tell men in who's listening? Who's kind of.
We lost that part.
That's strong in terms of I want it this way. I'm gonna go out and work. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna come home. I want to just look. I just want to relax when I get home. What kind of advice could you give? Oh, look at Ebony's face.
I'm waiting for the advice.
There's none of that.
Right. Before he answers that question, we talk about conversation is a
king.
Yeah, communication is king in our relationship.
Yeah.
And I know you're saying, well, you seem like you didn't want kids, and it wasn't even that. I am not a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
If I was just, a stay-at-home mom, maybe possibility, but I'm somebody that works 40 hours a week. I went to school, I have degrees, and I went and did that because I wanted to work. So I understand that, even with that, I can work and still have children, but the communication part comes in. You're working 40 hours a week. I'm working 40 hours a week. If we have children, then now we have to make sure that we're sitting down talking about what's our game plan, because I'm out working just like you're out working. So that is kind of what a little bit of the struggle was for me. And in addition to the fact that I was telling him that's why it's good for us to live in Bloomfield, where my family was, because when he's not around, then I have my family that's around me that can help me out with situations. And so I think that it may have been different if I was a stay-at-home mom, but even in talking to stay-at-home moms, even they need an outlet from being with the children, all day. And then the other issue with me is pregnancies were great for me, but it was the deliveries that were hard for me. And every time I had a child, my delivery process did not get easier, it got harder. So my fear was always, every time I got pregnant, I got into a mode of depression, and oh my gosh, I love babies, but I want somebody else to possibly carry them and deliver them. So I think that was the struggle, but I think after we started to talk about it, and he saw that, when I had Trinity, the struggle there was then, okay, I understand why we need to make the decision to stop, because now I see what it's doing to my wife. I see, the pain that she's in. And I'm saying to him, don't be selfish. I did this for you painfully 4 times. You're going to ask me to do it 2 more times? And he's like, yeah, you just need to be obedient. But at that point, I think that it was a conversation. I just needed him to understand. It's not that I don't like children, I don't want them, but he needed to know what I was experiencing and what I was going through. And I think that my last pregnancy was when he saw that something happened to me that he couldn't handle. He had to call, on my sister-in-law to handle me because, he didn't know who I was. And I don't think I knew who I was. Like, you crazy.
The practical application of it, I was always like a second shift guy. So what I had to do, I was working first shift job and I was working a second shift job. So I had to get rid of the second shift job. So when she would come home, like all the nighttime stuff, I did. All of it, Monday through Friday, whatever they needed, I handled, and I was home with her and the kids. And I think that alleviated a lot of the pressure. That I missed the money, but my wife's sanity was more important. So what she could do the mornings, getting them up, getting them ready, then she going to work, we all going to work, doing everything. But when it came time to coming home, that 4 or 5 o'clock peak, I was making the dinner, I'm changing the diapers, I'm reading them the stories, I'm doing the disciplining, all of that, so she can kind of just fall back till she, got her legs under her. Now in the stage of the game, we kind of split our kids up. So you take two. Whoever's the most difficult, you go with daddy. Whoever's the less difficult, you hang out with mommy. So when Josiah's having a problem and he's off the chain, I'll go grab him. Come spend some time with daddy. When Destiny off the chain, come spend some time with daddy. And vice versa. We developed that through time. So now it's easier for us to kind of pick our battles and choose how we're going to navigate when it comes to the children. But I had to let some things go. You got to make some sacrifices or it wouldn't have worked. And when I saw she was getting overwhelmed, I had to make some fast, critical decisions. And that meant being a stay-at-home dad at night. I couldn't, I wasn't going out with the fellas. I wasn't doing no extracurricular activity. I was doing church. And when I went to church, I took two of the children with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to leave you with 2. I'm going to take 2 with me. Those kind of things. So she just wasn't overwhelmed, and make sure she, my wife's big on sleep. I had to make sure she got her sleep because when she got her sleep, she was fine. So I had to make sure she got her sleep, and all my little night hawks on my children, I stayed up with them. But once she got her rest, she was good to go.
And what's important too for men to understand is you're gonna want your time. And how you want to get your time if your spouse is all tired and worked out. So I think once he realized that, he was like, "Oh, let me help. I'm gonna make this food. I'm gonna get these things, and they're gonna get in the bed by 8 o'clock." So
because I need my medicine.
So once you start to understand that, and that you could be a help in that, what man wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, that's true. So let me ask you, so how you talked about that you wanted to be progressive. You didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. How did you not lose yourself in all this? Especially with a new family, you got kids, you got a lot going on mentally. How do you not lose yourself and still push to progress in what you want?
Well, I believe it was by the grace of God, because a lot of times I look back and I don't realize how I did a lot of things that I did.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I have a fantastic husband. That's how I was able to accomplish so many things that I was able to accomplish." So, a lot, like I said, when I look back, I really, can't explain all of it, but I know that it was by the grace of God that I was able to accomplish a lot of things that I was able to still do. And teamwork is what made it work for us. I was in school at some point when I had, children. I walked across the stage pregnant. So a lot of it was, my spouse, Gail, helping me, with different things so that I was able to still accomplish and achieve things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said before, when you sit down with the other person, how many children, 2 versus 4, you got to know their limitations. If you are not going to help out with having 4 children or 5 or 6, then you need to just have 1. If you're going to put it all on the other person, don't overdo it. But if you know you're going to be an active participant, then that relaxes the other person in their mind. It can't just be like, you're going to have 4 of my children, and I say so, and I'm the man, and that's it. Well, what you going to do to facilitate this? So that's a conversation when you have earlier on. And if you see that person's not going to do it, then you have your answer. You know where you have to go. And well, 2 is going to be the limit, because I don't see you being I don't see you being much help.
Right.
And just be honest, not in a mean way, but a lot of it's going to be on one person. But once she understood, oh, he got this. He's crazy about his children. He loves his children.
Right.
Then I'm cool with it, because I didn't believe in, having everybody look after your children and doing this and that. We had certain people, and if I couldn't do it, then it wasn't going to be done.
Right.
And I just, again, like you were saying, Pastor Laura, early on, that's a conversation. That's just as simple as that. That's an open and honest conversation. I know what you want, but what are you willing to do to get what you want?
Yeah.
And so if they don't have an answer, then you have an answer.
Right.
we ain't having all these children, or we're not moving over here, or you can't take that job over there because you don't have a good enough answer for me to do that.
That's good. That's real good. In terms of in these last 5-10 minutes that we have, I don't care what kind of relationship you have, whether you date, in court, and marriage. There's going to be some sense of conflict or some tough time. And how do you guys deal with the conflict in terms of how do you communicate? Are there certain steps? Are there certain
we wrestle.
But how do you guys handle that, and how do you get through it? And are there days that you just can't stand each other, or what?
Absolutely.
I
can't stand them now.
So how do you get through that?
Well, it all goes back to communication. And I know one thing that I had to learn is all things lawful, not expedient. So there are times, when I want to say something, and the Holy Spirit will check me and let me know this is not the time, to address or to say that now. And I can choose to listen and obey the Spirit, or I can choose not to and let the chips fall where they may. So I think that where we are, like I tell Gil and I don't have arguments.
Yeah.
I tell them we have discussions. We have arguments.
I don't know what she's talking about. We argue in my marriage. I don't know about her marriage.
I call them discussions. She calls them arguments. There's no yelling and no screaming. Gil and I are both debaters. So we'll sit down and we go toe to toe until we come up with a resolution. Yeah. At the end of the day, I let him know you are the man in the house. Yeah. And if it has to be your decision and it has to go your way, that's fine. But then I let him know the blood is on his hands.
I think in conflict, my wife has a lot of different ways to communicate. So when it comes to a conflict, there are times when it's intense, we have to fall back and say, listen, I need a 10-minute timeout from you. I'm going to go somewhere and think about what you just said. You need to go somewhere and think about what you just said to me. Right. And then we're going to come back. There's something that I'm going to say that people may not be comfortable with.
Okay.
But sometimes in our conflict, we check each other right in the midst. And so if I'm coming at her and I'm like, hey, you want to leave us like this? She'll check me right in the middle. Now, wait a minute. She'll let me know, what other way could you have said that? I understand what you were saying, but how else could you have said that? I don't care what you're talking about. You want to do this or what? You want to leave us like this? And she'll tell me, how else could you have said that? And so you check people out. Like, again, I don't know how comfortable people are in that, but we have learned how to kind of fight fair.
No, that's good.
And we check each other right in the middle of it and say, what you are saying is valid, but I want you to say it differently to me, and vice versa. And I know what was big with my wife was, earlier on, my wife would feel because I didn't agree with her that I didn't understand what she was saying.
Yes.
I'm an intelligent person. I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree with what you're saying.
Right.
So sometimes in an argument, you got to get past that, because sometimes you want to fight for the right. I just want to be right. And when you go through as a couple, you learn that that's not important. Sometimes you'll fight for what's right, but you'll lose the person.
Yeah.
You will lose the battle you were trying to win. So sometimes it's not always to try to be right. Just hear what the person is saying, because a lot of times she's saying things to me and I'm, under my breath in my mind, I'm like, she don't know what she's talking about. Then I go into, well,
she does know what she's talking about.
And what's crazy about it, sometimes we argue and we'll get an argument and we saying the same thing. And I gotta say, we actually agree on this.
Right.
If you take some of that Aretha out your voice, meet halfway. And I'll let Ike go, you let Aretha go, and we come together and you can find out, hey, we actually agree on this. So sometimes you actually got to listen to what the person is saying and get through it. And that's why my wife was big on, how else could you have said that? Because maybe I would receive it better if you wasn't saying it like that. The other thing too, we have children.
Yeah.
And when it gets intense, we got to go into the garage. You got to go into the car, because you can't let them hear everything. Because our children think if we say, open the refrigerator, hey, you got the 2% milk, I want a whole milk. In my house, my children, my children like, mommy and daddy are fighting over 2% milk and whole milk. They're like, no, I just want 2%. Your mother like whole, But to them, that's an argument. They never heard dishes being thrown, doors slammed. So to them, that's intense for them. Us disagreeing.
Yeah.
So when it gets real intense, we have to go somewhere and talk. Take a drive. We got a 14-year-old who's pretty responsible, so we'll be right back. We get back. He knows what's going on. He says, "So who won?
Yeah.
Who won the argument?" I said, "Well, put your mother's away right now."
Yeah.
And it's not an argument; it's a discussion.
Yeah, it's a discussion. And it's discussion.
Very intense sometimes.
Her head is moving. So I can talk without all of this, but
But like I said to Pastor Leroy, what I had to learn is often lawful, not expedient.
Yeah.
Because like just last night, we had a disagreement, and it could have went to the left.
Yeah.
But he said we did. I tell him about it after the podcast. But I said something, he said something, and he walked away, and it could have went to the left, but the Holy Spirit had to check me and said, all things lawful, not expedient. Let's just just don't say anything, let me handle it.
Yeah.
So he handled it, and Gil came back, but I wanted it like an apology. And I washing dishes, and I'm like waiting for him to tell me, yeah, you was right, but he didn't say that. But the Holy Spirit let me know that if you just obey my voice, follow my lead, I'll handle it. And the same thing with me. When he has an issue with me, and words are not working, then he has to put me in the hands of God and let God handle me.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law. Like, Karen, straighten her out. I ain't coming home.
That's good. That's good. So these last few minutes that we have, what advice would you give single people? What advice would you give married people, just people in general, when they're dealing with relationships? What advice would you give them?
Pay attention. Pay attention. There's always signs, and you need to pay attention.
Don't avoid conflict. Don't avoid the discussion, the argument. Have it, because that's your true person.
Yeah.
What you're passionate about, you're gonna argue about, and it's communication. It's intense communication. There's communication. You run into a problem when the person don't want to say nothing to you.
Yeah.
Now you got a real issue. But if they're willing to fight for their point, you fight for your point. Watch that, and like my wife said, pay attention.
Yeah.
Oh, that's important to you, and that's you know that by how intense that conversation gets.
Yeah.
Know that, and so all right, that means a lot to you. You got to fall back and appreciate that and understand that, because if it's not important to them, they're not going to argue like that. But don't avoid it, because that's who you're going to find out who the real person is, because you meeting their representative when you're at Capitol Grill.
Yeah.
That's their representative. Everybody going to be sweet because you want that $200 steak. When you are in the conversation, that's when you're going to find out who they really are. And that's, my wife said, pay attention.
You got to keep people out of your business.
Oh, Lord.
And if you are going to get people in your business, you got to make sure that you're choosing wise counsel. Make sure that you're choosing people that have success in their relationships or in their marriage. And, somebody that's not going to be spreading your business all in the street. And to make sure that you continue to date each other. That's the most important thing with Gil and I, because of our busyness, is finding time that we're going to spend our time with just you and I, still continuing to date one another.
That's good. That's real good. I appreciate y'all. And, like I said, y'all one of my favorite couple. I always enjoy talking to y'all, and thank you for coming on the show. And we probably get you to come back later on this year, and we're gonna talk about some more subjects. But thank everybody for joining us for another segment of Stronger and Better. Please, you'll see at the bottom of the screen our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're here every Thursday at 11. We got some exciting guests. Next week, we got Bishop Wiggins and his wife, Deborah Wiggins. And we're going to be talking about reset, rethinking, and relaunching in 2021. So please join us next week here on Thursday at 11. And then we got some more people coming along. My mother's going to be at the end of the month. We got a really therapists that's coming on. So we got an exciting year this year in terms of people who's coming on to the show. But I love each one of you. Love you, Ebony and Gil. And I'll be at work in a few minutes to see y'all. So I'll talk to y'all later. God bless y'all.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Take care.